Good morning. We're just going to get everything set up here and get the boss in his seat. There you go, Chief.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Friends Church, and if this is your first time here, you picked a wonderful, strange day to be here. But our community, for the last couple weeks, months even, has been asked to send in questions to you and Jeff. And I am going to share some of those questions with Vince. We actually had too many to get everybody in again, so thank you for your response. Mm-hmm. And let's just run with this and see how it goes. And you, if Jeff got the "We love you, Jeff" questions, these are.
Wait a second. Where was the "I love you, Vince" questions? Come on.
You didn't go anywhere. Okay, so
Jeff did a great job, though.
He was the best.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic send-off.
That was
great.
So good. Okay, so I'm going to start with some softballs here just to ease you into it. I don't know if I'm even supposed to ask this, but I'm going to because this isn't an emotional send-off. Jeff said that you used to have the nickname of Spock. Can you tell our audience why?
Yes, I can, and I did. We talk parts, how we have these different parts. I have a part that's very, very intellectual, and it handles a lot of part of my life. And then I have a part that feels my emotions, and I stick that part in a corner in a deep, dark dungeon sometimes. And for a long time in my life, the way I dealt with my growing up years, the stuff that happened to me, my relationships, my feelings of connection to the people around me, I didn't have a way to handle that emotional part. And so I just used my intellectual part. And so it was Spock. This is logical. Not how do we feel, it's what's the data, how do we work through this? So it was a fair comment. It's also one of my strengths, so it's not only a weakness. But when that part takes over, I can feel it. And it's like, I can feel I just shoved that guy in the corner. I'm like, okay, buddy, come over here, let's hang out. How do we feel? How do I feel right now? My wife is great. She has a much better sense to her feelings. When I was right near the end of my ultra running career, she said to me, do you enjoy running that much? Like, we're running 100-mile races. And I was like, I never thought about that. Feelings are the feelings of what it feels like now. Sometimes to do these big things, you need to turn those feelings off. But turning them off too much, you have a life that's all drive. And there's no connection to is my life good? Is my life enjoyable? Do I love my life? So I missed out on a lot of life for a time because I was Spock.
I remember it was 6 or 7 years ago we were having...
You're not allowed to share stories about me. That's not how it works.
No, it absolutely is. It's relevant. I remember 6 or 7 years ago we were having lunch, and I was talking about something I was struggling with, and you said, how do you feel? And I went on this rant for a minute and a half, and you were you listened and you nodded, and I thought I had nailed the answer. And you were like, now, you started that with, I think. And I was like, oh, don't do this. And you're like, feel it in your body. And it made me so angry. Yeah, it made me very mad, but now I do it a lot. So thank you for that.
When someone says, how do you feel? You're like, let me think about that.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, no, you're not understanding.
I didn't like the correction, but it was necessary. You heard me ask this question to Jeff, but what's something about being a pastor that no one warned you about, and when it finally happened, you went, oh, this is part of the job?
So I have a master's degree in Master's of Divinity in pastoral studies. You'd think that should prep you for this, right? I can read and interpret the Bible really well. I can paraphrase things and do all the research to understand that. I had one class in leadership, and it was volunteer support. That was what the class was called. I have 0 classes in business. I have 0 classes. Now, I used to do those jobs, so I knew them from someplace else, but nothing about getting ready to be a pastor talks about there is individuals, but we come together as a group, and the group needs things. It needs us to raise money. It needs us to negotiate leases. It needs us to recruit and fire. It needs all those skills that they don't teach you in school, like, at all. Like, not even saying the words out loud kind of don't teach you. Like, don't worry, that will never happen to you, and then that's a good chunk of your job.
That is very fair. I have not thought about the lease in a long time because you just tell me how to be a better person.
We need the lease to do that.
Yeah, we do, it turns out.
We do.
There's an ice rink if it falls apart. This is the coolest question we got.
Okay.
I don't even know if you're going to have an answer, though. What banger worship song from the 90s do you still get stuck in your head?
Does anyone remember As the Deer Panteth for the Water? I actually don't even know what the... Like, that song, every once in a while, and it's not like I know the whole song. I know that line, and it just goes over and over, and I'm like, please get it out of my head.
Who is that song by? There we go.
Who wrote it? Sandra Corbin? As the deer panteth for the water. As the deer panteth for the water. It just keeps going over and over until I'm like, I'm going to jump off a cliff if this doesn't get out of my head.
Joe, can you add that to the set list?
Please don't.
Amazing. I still get the chorus of Flood by Jars of Clay stuck in my head at random times during the day.
Nice.
It doesn't even have a melody. It's just one line with 4 harmonies above it. It's a terrible thing to get stuck in your head.
I got to say, the music at Friend Church, the number of times I've had a little bit too much caffeine, and I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm singing whatever song, Euclid. It's like I'm singing the song in my head, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to sleep. At least I have a good song in my head. So thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Aw. Okay, this section is called Theology Time. So obviously all of our theological questions went to the guy who was a, what did you say about yourself in the first section? Genius, intellectual, master's in divinity, runs 100 miles. So I figured I'd throw these ones at you.
Emotionally stunted.
Emotionally lovely. Okay, what is the most common misunderstanding of ancient teachings that you can think of? And I think the heart of this question is, what's something that we've taken, a line or a quote from the Bible that we have taken so for granted, but we're so far off? I think a small example of this is you and I were talking about don't say the Lord's name in vain. And I was like, well, that's not how language works. Like, they wouldn't be saying, oh my God, in Judea.
OMG, that's a thing.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
Hebrew,
for sure.
yeah.
But we talked about the real meaning.
Yeah.
What's the most pervasive one you think in culture?
Who is God? The Bible's written over, give or take, a few thousand years. It's a few thousand years old. I think people look at the Bible and say the Bible tells us what or who God is. And if you try and figure out all the stories of the Bible about God and try and line them up, it does not work, like at all. John says God is love. Whoever wrote the Pentateuch says, God says, murder them all. Kill them, men, women, children. Don't even leave animals alive. And then I see people going, okay, but no, God is love. So that's a loving act because I have to believe that that's the same thing. And so I catch crap often for saying the conception of God or the character of God in a story. But what I'm trying to show is I want to explore the whole Bible and let it speak, each part speak for itself. And I don't want to try and take the God is love conception and genocidal God and go, oh, they have to fit together, so I'm just going to ram them together. So when I see people doing this, I'm going, the whole thing is starting out in the most brutal way. And if I can just get that disconnected, if I can just say, hey, look, there's these different people who have different conceptions of God, and they're consistent with their culture and where they are. The oldest stories have a God that says, God is angry at you unless you do nice things for the God, and then God will like you for a time, and then you'll do something bad, and then God will make your life hell again. To God is love in the New Testament. So if I can get people to just start looking at the Bible through the lens of many, many conceptions of God, the whole thing changes. The Bible just becomes so rich and beautiful, and you just go, okay, yeah, genocidal God, I get it. That's how they rolled back then. That's not what I'm going to focus on. What I'm going to focus on is this other piece of the story that's about us.
Oh, that was a good answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
I
thought you were like the example that the writer wrote was example turn the other cheek, which is also, in my understanding, a fun one. We don't have to talk about it, but
we could have gone there.
Yeah,
got a little deep there.
Do you want to do one sentence on turn the other cheek?
I did some research on that recently. There's two ways to look at turn the other cheek. One is if somebody asks for or somebody hurts you, just turn the other cheek. And so we have this whole tradition of Christians as kind of punching bags, right? If you ever want something of yourself, that's bad. If you ever stand up for yourself, that's bad. There's this idea that says, if I slap you with my open hand, that's an equal. If you turn the other cheek, I have to slap you with the back of my hand, which culturally says, the first one is, you're lesser than me. The backhand is, you're equal to me. So the stories that Jesus is getting at here is this way of going, how do we resist people and power that are being abused when we don't have power? And one way you can do it is slap me as an equal. Turn the other cheek is slap me as an equal. So once you start getting that shift, you're like, oh no, this isn't just be a punching bag, because that's what it means to be a Christian. It's no, you take the hit and you're like, wait a second, hit me as an equal. Let's see how this goes.
I love this stuff. Here's another fun question.
We're still in theology with Vince?
Yeah, it's called Theology Time.
Okay,
Please adhere to the titles. What are the Leviticus statutes? Did Jesus abolish them or not? 3 sentences.
Yes, no, maybe. Jesus says, I don't change any of the law, but you have to understand he's not a literalist in the way that we understand literalists.
Let's start with what they are quickly. What are the Leviticus statutes?
Oh, there's a whole crap load of them, 613. If you guys, can you look back at the back here? You see next to the door, there's a plaque with a feather in it. Can you see that? That's actually a quill. One of the statutes, the Levitical statutes, is write a letter of Torah. Torah meaning the first 5 chapters. So the temple hired someone to handwrite a Torah, and then each person got to be a part of it as a statute of the Levitical statutes. So that's one of them. And they put it up there proudly to say, hey, we did that one. I think probably what the questioner is asking is the weirder ones, like not wearing mixed fibers, stuff around that. Is that what you're guessing as well?
Yeah, that's what comes up all the time, right? When you hear like the Reddit atheists and the Reddit Christians debate, they go, "Are you wearing mixed fabrics?" And it's just, it's very unsubstantiative, right? I think that the deeper question is like, what do you think that Jesus was in relation to that when he came and said there's a different way?
He seems to have a way of doing Judaism that's the same and yet evolved, and all the way through. Tangent. When someone says to me that they're a scientist, I say, does your understanding of what your area of study is evolve? They say, of course. That's the scientific method. I learned something and then I realized, okay, we had 90% of it right, but 10% was wrong, and so we evolved. Nowadays, when someone says they're religious, I ask the question, does anything evolve in your religion? They say, no, things can't evolve if they're religion. If you look through the Bible, that is completely ridiculous. It evolves all the time. Jesus evolves it. He's like, oh, there's new ways to do it. One says you can't eat on the Sabbath, so he goes and eats on the Sabbath, and he gives some to his disciples. The people around him are like, you can't do that. And he's like, why not? We are very stuck. We think religion is this absolute, we have all the right answers. The hubris in it is crazy. Whereas you look through the actual stories of our tradition, they're constantly evolving. Just after Jesus comes, there's a period, 70 CE, Common Era. Their entire temple system gets destroyed. You think, oh, that's too bad. No. Every way of them doing religion gets destroyed in that moment. Everything. You can't do anything the same anymore. All the traditions that you're part of, that you think you have to do, gone. The religion had to evolve. In fact, some of the people say the Gospels are written just after that event because they were going, sweet Jesus, everything is like, no, what do we intended. Do? What's that?
No pun intended.
Actually, in this case, pun intended. So, again, our tradition is constantly evolving, constantly moving. It's we that try and go, I want stability, so I'm not going to let it evolve. I'm going to ram it into place, and I'm going to hold it this way. And I'm going to read these stories as God loves people, and he destroys them all, so that's a loving act. And I'm going, no, It's way bigger than that. And then it becomes so applicable to our lives. Because it's not like, well, do we wear mixed clothes? No. What does it look like to live a life of wisdom in this culture today? That's worth sitting on for a few months, possibly decades. How do I be a husband? How do I stand up for what I need and listen to what she needs and find balance? Right? These are the questions that we then wrestle with, not love is genocide. So when I look at this thing, I'm constantly trying to evolve it and going, okay, what does this say about my life? And yet, the stories are all about humans, like me and you. Different cultures, different things. Our hair was longer, I don't know. But I look at the human component of it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was just, the Septuagint, I just got the Septuagint. I'm super excited. The Hebrew Bible is translated into Greek, and then they translated that into English. So it's like one of the first translations of the Hebrew Bible. This is the part where you're all like, oh! Exactly, exciting. But they have a line in it about Cain had the right motivation, but his sense of the world was wrong. And I go, how many times do I try and do something nice for my wife? My motivation's there. But knowing what will change her life, it's not accurate enough.
Oh, no.
And
Call the Gottmans. They're going to want to talk to you about that with their love languages.
Sorry, keep going.
No. That felt aimed at me in a way, given my week, so thank you.
But that line of like, how do you know how to live life well?
Yeah.
We have all the desire in the world, and yet we don't have the instruction. We don't have the wisdom. And I'm going, I got to step up my game, dude. I had to go home and apologize to my wife.
How much is it to get a Septuagint for those of us in the audience now excited about it?
It's a really good one.
What museum do we have to order it from? Actually, this isn't general knowledge. We'll talk later.
Okay.
Okay, I'm looking at our time, and I actually want to do this one. I think we have time for
Sure.
it. It felt selfish when I put it in, but it was my last one. So someone wrote this question in. The first time we did this, Bryce mentioned that he had issues with Paul. I was wondering if he felt like elaborating on that. So I was wondering if we could elaborate on that.
Because, I was going to say, I can step off.
Yeah, no. Because I wanted to talk about it with you. Because
okay, so why do you have issues with Paul? First, do you have issues with Paul, or is that a joke?
I do have issues with Paul.
And what were your issues?
So one of the things that I see is I tend to see when I read through these things is when I read through the Gospels, I feel like there is this Jesus as a person who is doing like social justice, trying to install the order of like heaven on earth, like that old Judaistic tradition of like heaven is not up there. Heaven is like the way that we order the world right now.
Yes.
And then Paul comes, and maybe his brain isn't working so good. We don't know. He comes along from a different culture that had pantheons and polytheism and Hades and all of this stuff. Paul comes, and now all of a sudden we're talking about Jesus, but he's going, you got to get to heaven. Maybe hell is real. And we get all of this really esoteric stuff that feels like it isn't inherently tied to Jesus. And then I think my big moment of like, I really don't like this guy was learning, and correct me if my understanding of this is wrong, correct me live, but Paul actually like went to battle with the people who actually lived with Jesus in real time to get their voices turned down, is one of my understandings, that like they were like, hey Paul, and Paul was like, not you guys, you wouldn't know. They were like, sorry that we can't write, but like we were there. And that makes me very frustrated. But correct me on what I'm wrong on there first.
Couple things. Think about the timing of Paul. Jesus lives. Paul's, let's say, a decade after, give or take 2 decades. Mm-hmm. Then we have the Gospels written somewhere around 50 years later. Mm-hmm. So we have a very, like you're reading them this way. Mm-hmm. This is history. And then Paul, no, it's this way. 50 years of evolution of the tradition. And then you get the Gospels. Sometimes some think John is written in the 130s. So we're talking 100 years later, things evolve and change. So you're going, these are the accurate stories of Jesus, then Paul. And I'm going, no, Paul. And then we have this evolution over time, and then we start getting gospel writers writing about something that happened over here, but at a very late time. Does that shift?
Yeah.
Okay, second
having a
piece.
crisis of faith on stage.
Second piece. Paul's Pharisaical, right? So he's trained in a certain way of thinking. Mm-hmm. He's also most likely an apocalyptic Jew, meaning he's always referencing, when he says the word sin, he's referencing one of two things. One is missing the mark, and he's like, yeah, you screwed up. You like punched your friend in the face, and we don't do that, so you sinned. But there's a side of him that also is talking about sin, capital S, this force in the universe that era of the tradition had that said, this is why bad things happen in the world. It's this force of sin. And so when you see people read it without critically reading it, they're just going missing the mark, missing the mark, missing the mark, and they're going, no. He's very interested in this force of sin that is completely consistent with his apocalyptic view of the world. There's good and there's bad. God is now only good and there's bad. And the problem is evil's winning over good. The Jesus story is the beginning of it coming back into the right order. So when you read him, he's talking about sin and like, oh, sin. No. Read it very carefully. Often what he's saying is there's sin, the power of sin in this world is in play here. How are we bringing heaven to this moment? How are we going to be part of the process that flips this thing around, heaven on earth? But he's writing to people specifically. It's like, oh, hey, Les, how's it going? Oh, you screwed that up? Let me give you some advice. That's what we're reading. But we read it like it's this like magnum opus. No, it's a letter. Les sent me about 4 letters. We'd gone back and forth a bunch of times. And then you saw the one piece that I wrote down, and that's Paul. So Paul, you have to read him very carefully. You have to read him chronologically very carefully. He's from a very different part of our tradition that is not anything what we use today. And he's got this kind of the language. He's not very careful with his language because in his world, you can switch it around. We don't do that.
That was jarring.
And then he's a little
helpful.
judgmental sometimes.
Yeah. Now, was my thing about him arguing, was my understanding, like disagreeing with the actual people who lived with Jesus, is there accuracy to that? Because I've read some history about that. Am I incorrect?
So that's the Lukean account in Acts. We don't exactly know what's going on there. So yeah, he seems like a bit of a strong-willed person. He got a lot done, but also a strong-willed person. And so sometimes to get a lot done, you have to be that kind of person. So there is some
Vince's manifesto coming next week.
There's some dickishness from him. That's fair. And
okay.
that's fair.
No, that was good. I learned a lot. We all learned a lot about our friend Paul, who I may have been judging wrong. And I'm going to go back and reread the whole thing as if I had time to do that.
Think of it this way, though. When he writes something, that was to Les, or that was to Joyce, or that was to... We take it not as to the person he's writing it to, and he's literally like, hey, Joe, here's my letter to you. And then we're like, no, it's not to Joe. It's to everybody in all times and all places. No, Les, Joyce, Joe.
That frustrates me, the lack of context that starts these books. You know what I mean? It's really frustrating. I'm going to ask GPT. I'm going to build a document for us, guys. Look for it on the website. Okay, let's get into Friends Church 3.0. Thank you. Okay, this is where these things get weird, Vince. But I think that I like that because I think our community has used this time, I think, in a way to say, not just like rah, but I think that like much like I'll use a business analogy. If you're trying to like sell something or convince somebody of something, if you don't know what they're worried about, you can't have a really good conversation, right? Yes. And I think our community did a really good job of being a little bit vulnerable in some places and maybe with careful wording, but saying, here's what maybe worries me going forward. And I thought, knowing you personally, that you would actually want a chance to talk about those things as opposed to hiding them. And that's what I appreciate so much about you. So first one is Vince, what balances did Jeff bring to your co-leadership that you see as the most meaningful losses or areas where you might need to step up in an area that's not as comfortable?
It's a great question. Jeff was very open about being very, very they-focused, right? We have I, they. In his most unhealthy times, his I would go away and it'd be they-focused. On his healthiest times, he could have his I present and they. I relied on his they quite a bit because he was so focused. He sent me an article and I'd read the article. I'm like, what did you get from that? He's like, oh, you didn't read the comments? I'm like, of course I didn't read the comments. You sent me an article. It was about the data. Spock. He cared so much about how people would react. Now, sometimes it was his Achilles heel. Yeah. But also, he was very good at it. And so, I don't know, I won't ask you to put up your hand, but there's a whole bunch of people in this room who are like Jeff, who I've recruited over the last little while to say, when I need to touch base with you about the they, I have this way of doing it. So I can send them a bunch of information, they give me a bunch of feedback, and I'm like, perfect, I'd missed part of that. And so, yeah, I knew fairly quickly as soon as Jeff said, hey, I need to step away. I was like, okay, I need to fill that. But what I realized very quickly is there's people with that strength in our community. I just need to tap it. And so for all of you who've done that for me and are doing that for me, thank you. It is invaluable.
Yeah, that's really good. So there's two questions here that I think that are relatively related. So we've heard a couple, like in the questions and even in meetings and people chatting with me, there is this sense of like, it doesn't feel like we have a hit by the bus plan in place right now. I think all of us really love this place. It's really special. And
Okay.
you people, you folks I don't know why I said you people, that was so cruel. You folks, my pals, I was trying not to gender it. That's what I was doing. I'm an ally. But when I was in Vancouver for 3 years, I searched for a Friends Church. And I said, oh, the land of Lululemons and Stanley Park. Of course there's a Friends Church, but there was nothing.
Okay.
This place is so special. And I think that sense of like, well, how do we hold on to that in a time of transition is coming through?
Yeah.
So one of the big questions people have is, what's the plan if you get hit by a bus?
It's funny, I was dirt biking yesterday and I hit a tree and I caught a
I don't want you
branch.
to tell the story. That's not helping.
It's not too bad. It didn't bleed. It's just like I got a bruise. And I remember thinking, Vince, you got to be on stage tomorrow. You need to be a little more careful here. Here's the thing. Our board and our board chairman sitting over here, boards love redundancy. They love two people running the show because if one of us, as long as we don't travel together, we're always got redundancy. It's very expensive to have a redundant system like that. So having a single person is a lot easier to handle, but there is that risk of what happens if me. I believe that there's enough different people who have speaking talent that I could get hit by a bus, and it would be hard. But there's some incredible speakers in this community. You just look through all the guest speakers we've had over the last couple of years, and you said if they just stepped up to the plate, and even when when Jeff first announced it, I went and talked to different people and just said, hey, I want to give you a heads up, Jeff is resigning. I just want to make sure you have a chance to chat with me about it. The number of people said, do you need me to speak? How many times? How many times a month? And I was like, I am one person who's part of the inspiration, but I am not the only person. And our community has an incredible amount of, what's it called, farm team? Am I using the right metaphor for sports? Farm team, is that the right answer? Practice squad?
Yeah.
The sense of like the backup people.
Yeah.
Our bench is full and there's incredible people and people keep stepping up and I keep meeting people with speaking talent that I believe if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, perish the thought, Friends Church would continue. Both this part of it as well as you guys, because I am not Friends Church. We are Friends Church. You were in Vancouver. There was no Lululemon version of Friends Church, and yet you were Friends Church. You're like, wait a second, how do I live in a healthy way? How do I let my spirituality inspire me to something? How do I take water? Oh, wait, this is the moment, right here, right? I got to do something right here. That exists whether this is here or not. So I'd love to give you a great answer and say, I'll never die. Or, I will hire another Jeff in the same way. But that's probably not the way it's going to go for the next little bit.
Very fair.
Chances are I'll hire another speaker that's part-time in a year, just so I have a bit more flexibility and we have a bit more support that way. But for the next year, we're going to keep it lean and mean.
Great. So this is a quick follow-up to this one then, but I wanted to get it is...
Just 1 second. I'll also get bigger body armor.
Yeah.
So like...
Yeah.
It kind of mine stopped there, so it kind of caught
That
the
has
edge
to
of
go under Joe's new guitar in the order, though, because I actually need Joe's guitar in tune more than I need you.
I have literally offered to buy him strings. I don't know how
it's
many
not
times.
the strings. He won't throw the guitar out. Anyhow, I'm... Okay.
We love you, Joe.
I love you so much. This is related then. So what's the plan, just so the community knows, if you want to skip this or in brief because we're doing the manifesto, what's the plan with speaking in sermons in the spiritual gym when you're not available?
We're going to use our backup team. So I have different people. You've actually stepped up to do one. I have Trevor stepped up to do a few. I have a few more conversations in play, a few more interviews. They cover all of my days away. So when I'm on holidays, we're going to have guest speakers. And yeah, I think oftentimes a guest speaker can bring something that we can't. Because you can often bring kind of like your founding story, as opposed to like, no one wants to hear my founding story. I've told it a million times. It's like, we're bored of that now. So guest speakers bring a vibrancy and a newness and a new insight into the world that I think we need. And so when I'm gone, that's how we're going to handle it.
I do like the guy who told me to do LSD. That guy rocked.
He was good.
He was great. I follow him on Instagram now. Great follow, Jay Facette.
We also have a bunch of people. We're doing a Love Your Neighbor series. I do a single message every once in a while. We're doing one with an immigrant couple from our community, talking about what is the life of an immigrant couple when they come to your culture, and when they are the most like you, they look like they're doing no work. When someone first comes to your culture, they're different. They speak a different language. They do everything's different. The more they become Canadian, look like me, the more it just seems like, oh, they're not doing any work. And yet that's when they're doing the very most amount of work. If you talk to an immigrant and you realize when it is that they're busting their butts, it's when they're trying to look just like you. And that's when we don't even notice what they're doing. And so when I sat and talked to them, I was like, oh, I've got it. We got to talk about this on stage, because so often we're looking at the immigrant conversation through our own lens as opposed to the lens of an immigrant. So even that, their insight into our world and how we love better, it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait for that one.
That is good. I asked this question to Jeff as well. This is one of the two overlapping. But how have you seen the role of a pastor change in the last 10 and 20 years, like in culture? And then how do you see it changing kind of going forward, whether it's in culture or here?
I like Jeff's answer. I would maybe adapt a little bit and say, for a time, I saw pastors stepping back. Right now, in the time of upheaval, often we want more certainty. And I'm seeing more and more pastors stepping in with, I know the answer. I know God. I know Christianity. I know it all. And so there's been this, in this, if you watch church history, this flows in and out. And so right now, I'm more concerned than ever about pastors using the stories of our tradition to calm people, as opposed to letting the stories of our tradition challenge people. And so I would love to see more pastors and more communities really wrestling with this stuff, as opposed to going, I know you're scared. Let me just tell you this is the way the world is, and park your brain at the door. I would like to see more pastors ask questions. That's what Jesus did. He even said at one point, I tell you in stories so that you don't understand, so you wrestle. That is not how most pastors roll.
Wrestling is not good for donations. That's a truth I think we both know, right?
It is true.
Telling somebody that your building is the answer and you're specific. If you come Sunday, you'll have the answers, but come here. And also, we're going to weirdly email you if we don't see you for a while. And I love that about this place. And I say that as a joke, but it is like, from those of us who do anything financial around here, like it is a bold model to be like, by the way, we don't have the answers. It is, those things are tied together. So it's something I'm really proud of what we do. And
if you read church growth textbooks, one of the things they have to say is you need to be able to tell them the answers, like you have all the answers.
Yeah.
And then you also need to make your theology such that they have to come to church. That's how you grow a church.
Yeah.
For us, it's not. Like you can come or you can not come. I do email you guys, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to check. It's not because I'm caring about your attendance. It's because in our community, people come and go and life gets busy. And oftentimes, the function of being a family is hard because there's not enough communication. And so I reach out, the number of times I reach out to somebody, I'm like, oh, hey, checking in, seeing how you're doing. And they're like, oh, by the way, I had major surgery. Oh, by the way, we're going through a divorce. Oh, by the way, this is happening. Oh, by the way. In old school church, when you were there every day, you handled that together. To do our church the way we do, I think there needs to be a bit more connection fabric. And so coming to church, whether or not you come or not, that's your spiritual journey. But I care deeply about what you're going through in life. And how do we help? How do we as a community take water to our community as well? So, yeah, that's my manifesto on the email.
That's great. I mean, the one thing I will miss Jeff for that he did was he did come help me with plumbing one time, and I know you're going to say no, so that's fine. You're
I can
very
do it.
busy.
I don't want to do it.
No, you don't, and I respect that about you. So for my final question here, I guess this might come up next week, but for the crowd here today, like, what excites you most about the future now that there is a blank sheet of paper essentially ahead of us? There's history behind us. Like, what have you learned from this that you can apply, and what excites you the most?
I'll give you two things. When Jeff resigned, whenever you have a big change, and that was when Jeff resigned, I took 3 days and I said, okay, before you step onto this bandwagon, you need to take some time and see if this is in your heart. And it was interesting. Over those 3 days, again, I had a bunch of other options of things I could have done. And I was like, at the end of my life, if I look back at my life, and I have a bigger bank account or I have something else, but I have not inspired people to a beautiful spiritual journey that inspires them to take water, if I don't do that, will I be happy with my life? And every time I looked at that, I could just feel myself going, no. I literally have the best job in the world. My job is to inspire a bunch of incredible people to make the world a better place. Like, tell me who has a better job than I have. Like, literally, I go to work. My job is 90% purpose, 10% lease negotiation. And even that, in my brain, it's leases or just, how do we inspire? If at the end of my life, the world is a little bit better around each of us because of what I did, I will die a happy, happy, happy man.
Likely from a tree during a motorcycle accident.
Possibly. But I will say this, there's a part that's exciting it didn't hit me right away. The beauty of Friend Church in the past was we had multiple voices. Jeff, myself, right? Every week, different voice. That was beautiful. The pain in the butt of Friend Church is we had multiple voices. Have you ever watched a TV show where it's like every episode is kind of standalone, but there's no story arc? When you have multiple speakers, creating that story arc, the series arc, is really, really hard. We spent hours in meetings trying to get our language aligned, our conceptions aligned, how we're going to talk about this aligned, so that there would be a story arc for a series. And we never successfully did it. With a single person, you can build. We start at the beginning of a series. It's not a standalone message. It's you need to know this one, then this one, and we're going to go on this big journey together to the end of this series. I have been more fired up about creating that story arc, that series arc. Again, there's things that I'm going to miss with Jeff being gone, but that's one. It's going to be incredible. And so I am probably more fired up about building series and messages than I've been in a long time because I get to do that. It's not just a one-hit wonder. It's we're going to build, we're going to create something incredible. Because some of the work we need to do is bigger than 35-minute talk. Right? If it was a 35-minute talk, you guys would have solved all your problems already. Sometimes it needs something bigger than that, this kind of whole story arc. So I'm fired up about the story arc.
I love that, and I'm fired up with you now. That was extra firing up. Folks, we're out of time here. Can we get a round of applause for Vince for his vulnerability, for sticking it out with us when apparently he had other options, which he let us know. But that means he's here on purpose, and I'm very grateful. So thank you again, Vince.
Thanks, brother.
Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Good job, man. I love it.